I'm going to share something with you that I've not shared before. And it's to do with my actual work and my work as a photographer. So for those who don't know, this is my YouTube channel. I don't share my work here, but there's been a few comments recently going, why don't you share your work? Why don't you ever show your work? What does your work look like? And there's some good reasons as to why I don't share my work on YouTube. I'm going to go through that first, and at the end of this video, I'm going to show you my actual work. Now, the reason I hide behind as to why I don't share my work here is because this platform or this channel, this business, isn't about my work. This is about me educating you how to do something. So I'm kind of torn as to whether sharing my work here is the right thing to do or not. But hopefully when I share my work with you later in this video, there will be an educational purpose to it, not just me going, hey, look at my work, isn't it cool? It'll be more than that. It will hopefully give you an insight into what it is to be a photographer, a creative, an artist who works commercially. That's what I'm hoping for here. But this platform is not about me, it's not about my work. At times I've made this platform about me, and I've always regretted it. I've always regretted it afterwards, whether the video's done well or not. Whenever I've shared too much about me and myself, I don't feel comfortable with it later on down the line, and sometimes I just unpublish those videos. So this is very much an educational platform. It's not about me, it's about me telling you, does that make any sense whatsoever, how to do what I do for a job without actually being about me. So there's that to it. The second part to it is, nobody should ever have the amount of feedback on their work that I would get. And of course I could not read it, but then there's something else with that as well. But if I post a video like this one here, I'm going to share my work. It will have maybe, 20,000 people see it? And maybe, 500-600 people comment on it. Nobody should receive on a regular basis unsolicited reviews of their work from 500 to 600 people. Humans aren't made for that. That is not a good thing. I don't mind you telling me whether I'm right or wrong about how the business of photography works or how, I don't know, anything in my videos. It doesn't bother me at all. But my work is my work and it's personal to me. So that's a major reason. That's probably the real reason why I don't share it here. One, because, obviously, deep down inside, I know that an unsolicited review of my work from a faceless person on the internet is meaningless. But if you start reading these on a daily basis, that's not going to be good for you. That is going to impact the work you produce. So this is kind of a one-time thing. Now, the next part of it is the majority of people who watch YouTube photography videos don't actually understand how the industry works. So I'm going to explain to you now, because if I show this to the average person, they'll be like, well, that's not commercial photography. The way that high-end commercial photography actually works is you are an artist, you create your body of work. An art buyer picks you up and brings you into a creative director who wants you to shoot a campaign. If you go out there trying to be a campaign shooting photographer, you will have mediocre success for sure, but you won't get very far. People want an artist. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're trying to hire. And my work is artwork. And trying to explain that to the internet is, well, it's like banging your head against a brick wall, really. So, but that is how the industry works. You're gonna have to take my word for it. If you disagree with me, fine, absolutely. But that's how it works. So I create a body of work. I give it to my agent. I give it to my marketing team. They put it out there. We then set up meetings with the art buyers. We take my work into them. And then when a creative director goes to an art buyer, look, we've got this campaign in, they're looking for this sort of aesthetic. They'll be like, do you know what? Scott fits the bill for that. Let me see if we can tape a meeting. The art buyer will contact my agent. We'll get in the room together. We'll have a chat about the brief, see if it's something I want to work on, and then decide from there whether we're going to do it. And of course, sometimes someone just goes, look, we've got a job, do you want to do it? And I'm like, yeah, money. I need money. I like to eat. So it's not all just, oh, look at my art. Isn't it beautiful? No, it's not all that. Sometimes it's, Scott, we need these 6 key visual shooting for a campaign. We've got 50 grand. And it's like, yeah, cool. I'm on for that. Let's go do it. But the ideal thing, the whole drive of this business is we create the art. And that is what Studio Access is about. And Studio Access is today's sponsor. It's where you can learn everything you need to know about what I actually do. and how to make it in this industry and all that stuff that we don't show on YouTube because people just get mad. Studio Access is the platform for those of you who want a more in-depth look at photography and videography. It's not the quick fixes we share over on YouTube, it's the more in-depth and detailed information that takes longer to put out there. This is looking at behind the scenes on shoots, working with top stylists, assistants and digitechs, right the way through to practical things like security for your camera equipment, how we make sure that we don't get cleared out, looking after your lighting, care of fuses, bulbs, domes, and all of that information that just isn't for most photographers. Studio Access is designed for those who really want to excel in photography, be it as an amateur hobbyist, an artist, or a commercial photographer. It's really for those who want to go above and beyond what's available on the YouTube platform. If you head over to tinhouse-studio.com, you can find Studio Access over there or the link down below in the comments, as well as in the description for this video. Now, one of the very important things about my work, and when I say my work here, your work as well, everybody's work. My work is my work. It's not your work is your work. What I produce is what I want to produce. Whether you like it or not is irrelevant. Obviously, I've spoke about the sort of mental health side of things of having too many people telling you you're crap on a daily basis. That's not good for you. I'm pretty robust towards that. Most photographers who aren't on YouTube wouldn't do this because it's a lot to deal with. I don't think people realize quite how much hate you receive if you're on social media. It's very rare that I go a month without a death threat, which is bizarre. It's very rare that I'd go a day without somebody saying something hurtful or mean or aggressive towards me. You know, that's normal. So there is all that to contend with, but my work is my work. And I do not care what you think. I don't care what my agent thinks. I don't care what my clients think. I create this work for me. And this is a side of it that I don't share on YouTube because it is personal. My work is for me. It is what I produce. It is the inner workings of whatever madness is going on up here. I'm going to now show you my work and I'm going to explain to you exactly what and why, because that's really important. And I'm hoping from this is where you can learn what it is to be a photographer. Now, we're creating a video about Annie Leibovitz at the moment and why she gets so much hate. And it comes off the back of a few other conversations with photographers where they've gone, yeah, but I could have shot that, I can do that, it's just a 3-light setup. What you're going to see here is why you can't do that. For sure, anybody can copy my lighting and camera settings, that's the easy part. But let's go and talk about the bit which makes my work mine and makes the people in ad agencies want to book me. Come with me. I'm not going to go through every image I've ever taken because that would be horrific. But what I'm going to start with is my early work into this body of work. And this here are these big macro shots. I say macro, obviously this is not macro in the technical sense, but this is what someone in the creative industry calls macro. Full bleed is another word they've started using. That's this here. And yes, it's simple. I shot this on my kitchen floor. First week of lockdown. This is what gave me my big break into this style of work. For the years before this, I had another agent and I shot in a different area altogether, but this is what got me going. And here's what's important. It's not how I've shot it. What's important is that it's spaghetti hoops. What's important is that it's gold bars. What's important is that it's anemic oven chips, badly cooked, looking a little bit flaccid from the budget section of the supermarket. What's important is these aren't real Smarties, they're the cheap brand. What's important is that these are baked beans and they're about to go on toast. If you've never eaten these, you've not lived. Bombay mix on a Friday night at home with a pint of beer, that's what I saw the adults doing. That's what's important. Now, these are observations of drinks, and I class myself kind of like a documentary photographer in my still life world. I draw my work from my childhood. That's where my inspiration comes from. Other people, they make up fictitious worlds they live in, or whatever it may be. There's whole different ways you can do it. But I'm showing you that empty glass, and this is from the height of a child. At a bar when they shouldn't be there as a child, you can see like when it's been left for too long and the sugars start to melt into the water and it's not quite mixing right. These are the sorts of table level visions of childhood. And then we move on to observations of sweets. Again, observational work. What's important here is it's not perfect, that we haven't gone and filled in all these gaps. What's important here is the sweet selection and the blue colour from the background, which was very common in wallpaper in the 90s. Then we move on to drinks. And people say, oh, it's a drinks photograph. No, it's not. This is kind of a very ambitious look at what other people's lives are like. This is the people who are drinking the fancy Fever Tree tonic water with the beautiful flowers. This is not my world, but this is how I see their world. There's the soft, cool water, there's the ripples in it, there's the floral aspect to it. It's very beautiful, it's not commercial work, it's personal work, but this has got me a lot of work. Back to sweets. This reminded me of that band t-shirt that everyone wore for a while, despite no one knew who the band was. I'm sure you know the t-shirt. And it's just, it's the simplest form of an image you could possibly have. Now this particular image here comes from McDonald's pound menu super savers. So this is a McDonald's image, and this is when you used to be able to order a 99p cheeseburger. And what you would do is you'd order 3 of them, an additional Big Mac sauce, and stack them together because it was cheaper than a Big Mac. That's where this is coming from. It's got here the rocket lolly. This is, I don't know if it's the same over the world, but a rocket lolly on a midnight blue sky with the moon. It's sort of drawing on childhood, books, the storybooks you had at night with those beautiful pictures in them. It's kind of inspired by that. And then it's these observations of ice lollies that have come out the freezer. You start to get the frosting on them. This is not how you photograph an ice lolly commercially. They wouldn't want that. But this is like, the freezer burn, because your mum's had it at the back of the freezer for the last 6 months. The ice cream vans come round. You're going, Mummy, can we go to the ice cream van? She's like, no, there's choc ices in the freezer. And then you go, the budget, off-brand, colours slightly gone wrong. There's the observation. Now this here is more looking at the futility of housework. It's a fun little series we shot recently, and it's just, that's not from that series, this is from the series. It's sort of drab, it's kind of comic. I love this shot here, it's a great model this guy was. Looking at that sort of, I don't know, lost all lust for life. Where we grew up, the men went out for work, the women stayed at home, and that was just the case when I was a kid. And then we'll go back to this one here. This is the party you wish you weren't at. We've all been there. We've all been sent to a party or had a party thrown for us, and you're just like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not in for it. It's not the big, oh, this is a great party. This is the, why me? Why am I here? I'd rather be anywhere in the world but here. And, that's the sort of vibe we're going for. Just, I don't want to be at this party. And it's based literally on a party I had to attend, and I didn't want to be there. Again, observational work. This is a classic sandwich from my childhood, but shot in a way that we didn't eat it like this. I got sent to school with a packet of crisps and a jam sandwich, and I'd put my crisps inside my sandwich. I'd stack my sandwiches on top of each other, fold them over so I could eat them as quickly as possible to play as soon as possible. Mine didn't look this beautiful, but it's not literal. It's an observation. The milk on the cereal. This is the cereal we had once because it was so expensive. I think it's called Lucky Charms. We just couldn't afford it as kids. And so we had porridge every morning. But this is just trying to make it look as exciting as possible, try and capture that moment as a kid when you weren't allowed it, to get it that first time. It's like, wow, this is great. And, I've gone for those blocky colours that I love. And it's just what I like to do. So this is a series I shot about where food comes from. It's aimed at children. This is where toffee apples grow, in the toffee apple forest. Now, I shared this once. This is one of the reasons I don't share my work. And loads of people are like, doesn't make any sense. The catch light's on the left-hand side of the apples, but the sun's coming from behind. It's a toffee apple field. Of course it doesn't make any sense. This is the swirling of Guinness. I remember vividly, the first real beer I ordered was a Guinness. I think actually I do know what the first drink I ever ordered was. It was a watermelon Bacardi Breezer, because I was that kind of a guy. But the first time I ordered a beer was a Guinness. It was disgusting. I actually love it now, but back then it was disgusting. I just remember watching it settle and being absolutely mesmerized. So this is kind of that on steroids, I suppose. This is the wrong version because there's a weird clone artifact up there. But this here won me a campaign for a coffee shoot for pumpkin spice lattes. This is my take on Coca-Cola, because everyone shoots the can for the campaigns, but I love the bottle. The bottle's iconic. Everyone knows the bottle. And everyone's like, oh, this was all done in post. It's all fake. It's not all fake. It was shot in camera. We did darken the shadows in the back corners though, because we couldn't quite get them dark enough whilst having the lighting for this hard shadow coming this way. This is a throwback to me as a child when my brothers used to have a drink. I used to press my eye against the other side of the glass or bottle and watch it going down. Don't ask me why, it's weird, I know. That's what I saw. This series here is Food on a Fork, and I love shooting this series. It is less from my childhood in a literal sense, but it is more, let's see what else we can do. Let's not do a plate of food, let's do a fork of food. And of course, fish and chips, and this one here, these are particularly like childhood memory foods. This isn't, this I just kind of like the idea of, if I'm honest. School dinners. This is my favourite school pudding. It's a jam tart with cornflakes with golden syrup on top of it. I don't know if you had those where you were, but we did on the plastic plate. I can still taste it today. And this is your school meal. Your sausages, those, they're like powdered mashed potato. I can still taste it now. And it's the little details. It's the colour palette. It's the peas that fell into the gravy because whilst you were trying to carry your tray, which is far too heavy for you, you were shaking and tripping and dropping it all over the place and terrified of dropping your entire meal on the floor because the whole canteen would jeer at you. This is where corn on the cob comes from. Inspired by an early, not McDonald's, Kellogg's advert, but yeah, this is where corn on the cob grows and this is where your ice lollies grow. And of course it makes no sense, but ice lollies, they have to grow somewhere, and why not in the Antarctic? This is kind of a, I can't remember what the issue was. I was living with somebody at the time and somebody's shoes stank and I can't remember whose it was. So when we came to do a shoe shoot for like some personal work, the stylist I was working with, Frankie, I was like, can we put flowers in them to make them smell good? So that's what we did. That's where it comes from. And again, the colours, the aesthetic, the lighting, it's all drawn from my childhood. This was actually a commercial job where I had full creative control. This is inspired by the Supertramp record cover where the lady's pretending to be the Statue of Liberty, I think it is. But this is inspired by that. And if you know the album cover, you'll know this is the tray of drinks, this is the hand, this is where it's inspired by. It's not a literal copy, but that's where the inspiration comes from. This is my full English breakfast burger. This is disgusting. I love it. But I love cheap food. I love going to a Greasy Spoons and getting the cheapest, nastiest fry you can imagine. And there it is. This is a picture of one of the actors we're working with. And again, this was more inspired by colours and mood. And this is, you know, that childish stretching your face, contorting it, and all the blues on blues. And it works well for me. And again, a bit of comedy and a bit of humour. This is what I imagined men looked like when they went on holiday when I was a kid in the, the 80s and 90s. They were going off to some foreign land, which we couldn't afford to go to. Often they'd have a sovereign ring, maybe the hairy chest out as well. It's a world I didn't know, but I kind of saw, and this is just a representation of that. It's a summer holiday photograph, but he's behaving like a child because we're all kids inside. So that's kind of my work. That's what I do. That's what I spend the majority of my life creating. And none of it has anything to do with fancy lighting techniques. We obviously have to do that for commercial jobs and we need to have that skill set, but it's all in the creative. That's all it is. Everything is in the creative. I hope this has been useful to somebody. Whether I delete this video or not, I don't know. But yeah, there we go. That's my work. That's what I do. That's what I do when I'm not being paid to do something or doing it for educational purposes. That's what I like to create. That is what makes me happy.